Welcome back to Chow Time Pods. Your host, Red. We have videos today from Alexander Grace.
Board, or I have to talk to the chairperson of the board, or I have to talk to the CEO or CFO or whoever, I will say, let me know what she says. Always she, like my default is she or her instead of he or him. If I'm saying Jane and John, I'll say Jane first instead of saying John first. I will say, I think Jessica's 100% right. This is correct. I just want to add something like that. Like I'll affirm and then continue. But like if a man says it, I'll just say, I want to add, and I'll just go into whatever I'm going to add. A lot of little tiny things that I do that are microfeminism, little acts that make men pissed off. And it's my favorite thing to do.
Things she does to piss men off. I promise you, no man has noticed. You think she's doing some like, what does she call microfeminism? Like this is a revolutionary thing. She's just
This is a thing? We don't care.
operating inside her own mind. Nobody has registered that she's doing this. I promise you. She said this is her favorite thing to do. Do you remember when women's favorite thing to do was like cuddle up with their husbands or kiss their babies? Now women's favorite thing to do is microfeminism. God help us. Stuff like this just makes it so clear that our civilization is collapsing. We've got the rising rates of loneliness and depression and suicide. There's no faith in the government or the media or education.
True.
Our birth rates have collapsed, so we are relying on immigration. And to top it all off, just fundamentally, the worst part of it all is men and women, like the two genders that make up our species, they just fundamentally don't trust each other. People underplay the significance of that when talking about what's causing our societal deterioration. You know, they'll blame capitalism or socialism, you know, whatever the political party, they'll blame social media. But the stuff that we talk about on this channel is still largely taboo in the mainstream because it's truly the one sacred cow of our culture you're not allowed to criticize, and that's feminism. And that's not good that we're not allowed to talk about it because it's largely responsible for everything that we're going through. But we have this collective mind sickness where we can't actually analyze it. We can't even name it, which is extraordinary when you consider that feminism and women are different things. Being anti-feminism doesn't mean that you're anti-femininity or against women in any way. And when you
No, we're just against a movement that shames and abuses and hates men. That's all it is.
You consider the stuff that you are allowed to talk about, that you can blame this conspiracy, you can blame racism, you can blame fiat currency. Like we're allowed to blame so many things. But the one thing you can never suggest that might be the root rot of everything is feminism. And why not? You know, is it because we are so protective of women? Well, maybe, but guess what? Feminism doesn't represent women. Less than a third of American women even identify as feminists, just 29%. That's not a strong majority. It's not even a majority at all. It is a minority position. Feminism does not represent most women, never has. Why then exactly is this awful, hateful, divisive ideology beyond criticism? Who or what are we protecting exactly? I think it's time to just state this clearly. Feminism is the enemy of our civilization. And that's not me giving it that label, calling it an enemy. Absolutely not. If you listen to feminist rhetoric, they explicitly name themselves as an enemy of our civilization. They're proud of it. Their explicit goal is to tear down our civilization and create something new. They've positioned themselves as the enemy. They've been saying it for decades. I think maybe it's time to actually take them seriously and treat feminists as the enemy that they have already declared themselves to be.
I wanted to thank today's video sponsor, Anson Belt and Buckles. I've had these belts now for 6 months and I wear them every day. I wear them with my jeans, I wear them with my dress clothes, my slacks, my suits. They're wonderful. That the micro track system, you know, being able to, tighten every quarter inch is so awesome, especially when you hear the clicks every single time. You feel so satisfied. They also look amazing. Being able to change every buckle with every strap just gives you endless combinations of looks. There's a reason why they have over 40,000 5-star reviews. And because Anson Belt and Buckles are the sponsor of today's video, they're offering an incredible deal. When you click the link down below or scan this QR code to build your box set, you'll get 2 bonus pieces, a bonus strap and a bonus belt buckle for free. That's 3 buckles, 3 straps that mix into 9 different combinations of looks in one box. It's an exclusive deal you won't find anywhere else, so click the links, build your box set, and upgrade your belt game today.
My face, you freak!
Please don't scream at me. I haven't raised my voice.
I don't care if you didn't raise your voice. It doesn't make you sound like any less of a misogynist. Get the out of my face!
That was kind of scary.
Yeah, you should be scared. You should be scared. Because you're a piece of and who's you, stranger? Stranger? You want to look at my get the out of here!
I never said I wanted to look at her.
All of you like white supremacist people think you just talk calmly, you seem normal? Why are we upset? Because you're a psycho!
I can't talk with her. She just screamed.
Okay, let me explain. Are you aware that there are two different types of social movements? Reformist and revolutionary. They are very different, and the reason why the enemy label is appropriate for feminism is because they are not a reformist movement. A reformist movement works inside an existing order. At a fundamental level, they accept the legitimacy of the society that they live in, but they identify specific problems and then they propose specific solutions. And the goal there is to improve society, to take the thing that exists and make it better. Think of the historical labor movement that's trying to get better wages and better working conditions within capitalism. They're not trying to abolish capitalism. Or think of the original civil rights movement that's trying to get Western countries to live up to their own stated ideals, to honor individual rights. Those original movements weren't trying to destroy the country. They want to improve it. That's what a reformist movement is. But that does not describe modern feminism.
I don't have any words prepared today. I just want you to feel our pain. So I am going to spend the next minute screaming.
If you want to know what makes a revolutionary movement different to a reformist movement, it's that a revolutionary positions themselves as an insurgent, operating outside of that civilization. They don't accept the legitimacy of the existing order. They see society as it is, as something that's fundamentally flawed and broken and sick. It's corrupted at its core, so you can't just reform it. It is irredeemably corrupt. So when you hear that feminism says that our civilization is a patriarchy that must be destroyed, dismantled, we've got to smash the patriarchy. Understand that feminists don't see themselves, they don't position themselves as being part of our culture and they're wanting to improve it. They want to burn the whole thing down and replace it with something new. In some cases, it actually becomes theological. Feminism acts as a religion complete with original sin, the fallen world, the priesthood, confessions, heresies, the whole thing. It's a religion. And I explain how that works in part.
Death cult
too. But just know that the mentality, the psychology of a feminist like this, it's not one of citizenship. These women, they feel completely alienated from the society around them. They don't identify with it. They don't feel like they belong to it. They experience living in the country with its existing systems as though they are living under a foreign occupying force. They are living under oppression, and their very identity comes from being oppressed people within that culture.
Men do not want your protection if that is contingent on you continuing to oppress us. You should never use protecting us as an excuse to further the patriarchy. We have declined your protection. We do not need it. We are not children. We have agency. We choose freedom. And if you think that women should be oppressed because they need your protection, you win the Darwin Award. It is the foundation of the free Western world to choose freedom over safety. Give me liberty or give me... Anybody who chooses safety over freedom deserves neither. That's Ben Franklin. We choose freedom. Leave us alone.
Who would have thought that feminists would all become Ron Paul libertarians, quoting the founding fathers about liberty? Never saw that coming. But I want you to understand that the language that feminists use is not accidental. It's very revealing, because if you listen to them, they're not saying that women are being marginalized or undervalued or underestimated or underappreciated, because all of those words would speak of a reformist movement. Women's criticism would be that they're not being given a fair go know a fair opportunity to contribute and to appreciate and to participate. And that's why feminists don't use those words. They use different language. They say that they are oppressed. That word has a very specific meaning. It speaks to the mindset of someone they're experiencing what they'd probably call like an internal colonialism. They've been colonized by the patriarchy. They feel themselves to be like an occupied people. Now, I don't want to dwell on this, but first off, it needs to be said how incredibly offensive it is to use this kind of framework to discuss the plight of women, given that you are equating what you've been through with like the indigenous people of all these countries. There's no way a white woman in Australia and her story of victimhood has anywhere near the legitimacy of the Aboriginal people. You know, the intersectionality, like, you know, we have so much in common. We're both oppressed people. Wow. But leaving that aside for the moment, it speaks to the hollowness of their claims of oppression, that they need to borrow the language and the framework of genuinely oppressed people in order to legitimize their movement. You know, they've gone out specifically and picked up the language of, you know, people who are like revolutionaries and fighting against colonizers. That's the way that they want to frame this. That's the language they're comfortable with, because they are so desperate to paint themselves as a liberation movement. But for a genuine liberation movement, they have to fulfill three very distinct and measurable characteristics, and feminism fails on all three. I go into detail on that in part 2. But while the legitimacy of their claims are laughable, their goal does need to be taken seriously, because everything that I spoke about at the start of this video, like the increased depression, the drop in birth rates, all of that stuff, they all indicate a civilization in collapse. And for a revolutionary movement, that's good. That's the purpose. They want to destroy the society. You know, that was the plan. This is not an accident, and it's time that we seriously contend with this. You know, I'll say it again, that feminism is the enemy. The feminists are enemies of our civilization. Again, not from me. These are the words, this is the language that they have chosen to describe themselves. And when you understand that the goal was not to improve Western society, but to replace it, it means that you can reflect on everything that's happening inside our culture through a very different lens. It puts it in the appropriate context, because when you see that feminism is trying to destroy our society, then you understand why it's evidence of their success. You know, we're all desperately trying to plug the holes and fix this thing so the ship does not go down, but there are people on board who are actively sabotaging our efforts. They don't want to correct course. They want to see the ship go down. And you think, well, that makes no sense. Surely the self-interest is going to kick in at some point. You know, if the ship goes down, don't you realize that we all drown? Well, revolutionary movements have never been well known for their ability to plan what comes afterwards. Primarily, they're interested in destroying things. They haven't figured out what's going to come afterwards or how things are going to function. That's not the point. The point is to express pain, to burn the whole thing down. They've got laser focus on just the total destruction of what exists now.
Said, I actually think men should be oppressed. You said, God, I hate men.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I love that.
You said you love it.
Maybe it's because she gets a joke and you guys don't.
What's the joke? Explain the joke to me.
What is the
I'm
joke?
sorry you don't
It's
get
just
the
like
joke.
No,
such
but
a-
I'm ignorant. Explain the joke to me.
Don't you think if I was trying to make a complex point about like my dislike of men?
So you admit that you
Stated
dislike
to-
men. Never working while a man pays for all your stuff is kind of queen shit. Feminist, by the way.
Being a
Gender
feminist
equality.
means that I can choose whatever path I want to take.
Okay.
That should be my right.
In a place in my life where I cannot hang out with men who make less money than me, please don't waste my time.
I'm sorry, it's funny. I live for that.
At the risk of repeating myself, I really need to drive this point home because its significance can't be understated. Understand that feminism defines itself in opposition to the patriarchy. That's its identity. It knows
makes
how to
sense.
destroy, but it does not think about what to create afterwards. You already know this at an intuitive level. Like if you think about a feminist organization, an institution, you already know what kind of an organization you're going to encounter. It's not going to be responsible for building and creating things. No, if there's a feminist institution, its primary purpose is going to be complaining and criticizing and dismantling things. That is not a coincidence. Do you understand? That's by design. We need to take this seriously. On this channel, I always say that we love femininity, we dislike feminism. This is not anti-women. This is anti this corrupt corrupt, hateful ideology that has infected women. Femininity is not the enemy. Femininity is an ally, and it's easy to see why. Just look at these two things and compare them, and look at what is the substantive difference between the two of them. You'll see that one set of goals has to do with procedure, and the other has to do with substance. When you look at the values of femininity, you can see that it's all about substance. It's all about creating something. They create beauty, they create relationship bonds, they create new life. Femininity is glorious. I love it with all of my heart. But the values of feminism are not about substance, they're about procedure. It's so focused on making sure that women get placed in positions of power. Procedurally, a woman is at the helm of the ship, but there's no discussion on where the ship's actually heading. If we get women into power, there's no talk about, well, what are things going to be that's different? How's that power actually going to get used? You say that it's so important that we have female CEOs and female politicians and female representation in all of these different industries, but why? Like specifically, what's going to be different? Stop telling me about the procedure of who's going to be making these decisions and tell me what are the decisions going to be. Because diversity and
men would just be slaves.
Representation are not inherently values in their own right. They don't have any actual substance on their own, but this is the exact sleight of hand that feminism has manipulated us with, because it has smuggled procedural values into substance values and tried to present it as though the two are one and the same, but they're not. And it's especially dangerous because it's unfalsifiable, right? Like anything that's procedural, anything that's value comes from substance can be measured and evaluated. We can test it, we can look at the outcomes. But when you mix procedure and substance together, then no matter how bad the outcomes are, you can always just say it's because we didn't have enough diversity. You know, underrepresentation from women, that's the problem. And so what do? You know, we just, accept this framing and just continue to hand more and more procedural power over to feminism, even though it has no plan for the future, even though it's creating nothing, it stands for nothing except more procedural control. And even as things are just, falling off a cliff, we're not allowed to actually point out that the outcomes being created are terrible. I know that this is primarily a men's channel and I speak with compassion for men's problems, but honestly, I feel so sorry for women as well, because men and women...
I actually do feel sorry for women. It's not like I don't feel sorry for women. They got taken for a ride, but I also feel sorry for men. We also got taken for a ride.
Women have suffered under feminism. We're not equally complicit, in pushing it out there, but just looking at this list, it's heartbroken. Look at everything that they gave up. Look at all the positive things of femininity, the beauty and the warmth and the grace and the loyalty, all of that. Look how powerful and strong femininity is. Look at what it can create. Look at how much purpose and identity it could give women. Look at how positive its orientation is. And they gave it up. They betrayed their own nature. They turned their backs on their own femininity in exchange for what? Feminism? You fucking
money.
Serious? That's like the worst trade in all of human history. No wonder women are absolutely miserable. But there are positive signs. Thank God. I think that there are a number of women who are finally waking up to this and realizing that this trade was terrible and they would much rather have their femininity.
Stay-at-home mum. My husband's at work providing for our family. I have some sourdough fermenting on the bench, a baby, an apron, a cute dress. I'm tiddling around the house, cleaning things, making myself food. I can go to the beach if I want. I can go to a cafe if I want. I can take my kids to the park if I want. I can go lay out in the sun. I have this cuteness right here that I get to look at all day, that I get to hang out with. Okay, cute. I've been out, have had a 9 to 5. I've, had the corporate job, lived the boss babe lifestyle, and I hated it. It was so exhausting. I was constantly overwhelmed. My gut health was in the trash. My cortisol levels and my stress hormones were through the roof. Now I just get to bake bread and hang out with babies all day. Isn't it the best thing in the world? It's the best thing in the world.
The lack of self-awareness with women is just so sad. They can't see the logic of what's going on and everything because their brain just works so different from ours. And that's part of the reason why I feel sorry for them. Logically and everything, they don't work the same way as us. We see it, they don't. Please like, subscribe, comment down below. I really appreciate that. And catch you guys next time. Ciao.